Welcome to Muscles and Malarkey, a podcast about all things strength, fitness, and fun. I'm your host, Mary. In today's episode, I want to break down exactly what to expect at your first powerlifting meet. I'm going to walk you through what game day looks like, how everything flows, and help you avoid some of the mistakes I've made along the way. Depending on your federation, weigh-ins will either happen the day before or the morning of the meet. At weigh-ins, you'll also get your gear checked. So make sure you have everything you need with you. This is when you'll give your rack heights for squat and bench, and also submit your opening attempts for all 3 lifts. Once that's done, the first thing that you want to do is find your spot at the venue. Think of this as your home base for the day. It's somewhere you can leave your bag, your food, and just settle in between lifts. Typically, about 10 minutes before the meet starts, everyone will gather for a rules briefing. This is where the meet director will go over expectations, commands, and how the day will run. It's also your opportunity to ask any questions you may have, so don't be shy here. From there, everything starts to depend on what flight you're in. Let's say you are in Flight A. You'll want to begin warming up about 30 minutes before the meet starts. That includes everything: your mobility work, general body warm-up, and getting to the bar. One of the biggest tips I can give you is to warm up the same way you do in the gym. If you normally take 10-pound jumps, stick with that. Don't suddenly change your routine just because it's meet day. The more familiar you can make it feel, the better. Treat it just like another lift, just with, a little more adrenaline. Once that meet begins, lifters go in order based off of their opening attempt weight, starting with the lightest weight and working up to the heaviest weight. You'll take your opener, and if that's successful, you'll head over to the judges' table to submit your next attempt. If you don't say anything and it's a good lift, they'll just automatically increase your weight by 2.5 kilos. If you miss your lift and you don't submit another attempt, they will just input it as the same weight and you'll repeat it. You will complete all 3 lifts this way. A good lift is one that receives at least 2 out of 3 white lights. Now, after squats, you will have some time to rest, refuel, and hydrate before bench press. The exact timing can vary depending on how many flights are in your meet, but there's usually a decent break while the crew swaps out the equipment. Bench follows the same structure as squat. Same attempt system, same flow. Once you're done, you will again rest, refuel, and prep for deadlifts. There will typically be another short break for setup before deadlifts begin. It's typically a little shorter than the break in between squat and bench, and that's because it's a lot easier to just take a bench rack out and put a deadlift jack and a barbell out on the platform. Deadlift is your final lift, and again, everything runs the same way. One important note: if you don't complete at least one successful lift in any of the 3 events, you will be disqualified. This is commonly called bombing out. Most meets or meet directors will still allow a lifter to continue lifting as a guest, but your total won't count towards the competition. Timing is one of the most important pieces of meet day. Each lifter has 60 seconds to complete their attempt, so you can roughly guesstimate the timing for warm-ups. When I'm handling someone, I keep track of how many lifters are in a flight, and I use that info to help estimate when my lifter will be up for their attempt. This can be a little tricky depending on what flight you're in. If you're in Flight B, you will need to pay attention to where Flight A is in their attempts. Because the tough part is if you're in flight A, you always know that you're going to have that buffer time between squat and bench and deadlift. Whereas if you're in flight B or flight C, you have to be more cognizant of where the flight before you is at in their lifts, because that's essentially going to tell you your timing of your warm-ups. If there are 15 lifters in flight B, then I know that flight is going to take 45 minutes at least. Yeah, that's math, okay? I didn't go to school for math, but that is math. This may be getting into the weeds a little bit, but I think that it is helpful to explain kind of how to approach timing, especially for warm-ups. If I'm getting ready for squats and I want to open at 3:15, what are my warm-ups? I'm going to take 135, 225, 275, and maybe 300. Okay, that's 4 warm-up attempts. If I have 45 minutes, then I'm not going to do all 4 of my warm-ups in the first round of them going. I'm going to time it out so that I have around the same amount of time in between my warm-ups as what I'm going to have in between my attempts. And I'm saying around. I don't wait 15 minutes in between warm-up 1 and warm-up 2, warm-up 2 and warm-up 3. You kind of get the flow, you get the pace, and a big tip that I like to use when I'm handling is to essentially take wherever my lifter is. I'm going to use April as an example. There were 16 people in her flight. She's 7th. Okay, so that's 7 minutes from the start of her flight till she gets to do her opener. I'm going to then backtrack around 7 to 10 minutes in between these warm-ups. To finish us off, I want to give you my biggest tips for meet day. Always choose an opener you feel extremely confident in. Save the PR attempts for your second or your third lift. The most important thing is getting on the board. And if you miss your opener, typically my recommendation is to just repeat it because you want to get on the board. Next, eat between events. Adrenaline will be high and you might not feel hungry, but your body still needs fuel. Quick carbs are great, like Rice Krispie treats, Sour Patch Kids, other candy. Nerds gummy clusters are apparently anabolic. I don't know. Anyway, and if it's a longer meet, you may need more substantial food as well. So just something to keep in mind. My next tip is to have a game plan. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. And if you're prepared for the worst, you will be ready if it happens. I like to plan both high and low options for my second and third attempts, so I'm not standing at the judges' table 10 kilos, please? No. You want to know what you feel like you could hit based off of how that lift moved. So if you do your opener and it's feeling like money and you're rocking and rolling and moving and grooving, okay, cool. You're going to go with the high option. But if it's ooh, that opener didn't feel super great, you might want to go with the lower option. Does that make sense? Yes? Good. Okay. Something I think that gets missed a lot is how much time you have on the platform. And I know that might sound crazy because you're like, Mare, you literally have been telling us we have a minute, right? 60 seconds is longer than you think. Unless you decide to break out the Macarena before your lift and do a really wildly elaborate setup, you have plenty of time. Don't rush yourself and throw yourself off, okay? Finally, biggest takeaway I can give you, if you remember nothing else other than to read your rule book, please remember this. Don't change anything up on meet day. When I'm in prep, I am very intentional about building consistency. I do the same warm-ups, I do the same jumps, and I have the same setup every time. Meet day is not the time to try a new stance, some new foods, or really anything unfamiliar. And for the love of Pete, if you've never used smelling salts before, this is not the day to experiment. Do that so you know how you respond to them before you're on the platform. At the end of the day, meet day is meant to be fun. Enjoy the experience. Don't take yourself too seriously. It is you versus you out there. I know you have two wolves inside of you, but they both have diarrhea. And truly, everyone running the meet wants to see you succeed. And you'd be surprised. A lot of the people you're lifting alongside also want to see you succeed. Hope that helps, y'all. Let's have some 9 for 9 days. Okay, love you. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, share, rate, and review. It helps the podcast grow and reach more people. Do you have any questions or suggestions? Email me at musclesandmalarkey@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at musclesandmalarkey. Yeehaw and yee-claw, everybody.